You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I do know this, that he had such a libertine lifestyle.
Yes.
He was more like Rasputin than he was Jesus Christ. He became an indispensable person in government for a very long time because they put so much behind him. I read this great book. I can't think of the name of it now. They talked about that the civil rights movement was more about the Cold War than it was about anything else. Because the Russians were using the propaganda of how America treated black people to have African nations and Asian nations come to communism.
Yes, that's true.
You're our comrades. You're our brothers.
That's right.
They had W.B. Du Bois come to China.
Yes.
He gave him all kind of awards and everything. Stalin had these guys. Malcolm X would go over there and talk. So they were using it as a propaganda piece, and they said, we have to take care of this. So King was their front man in this effort. They didn't know King was compromised by the communists until right before the March on Washington. And that's when Bobby Kennedy told, first Deke DeLoach told him, get these communists out.
Number 2 guy at the FBI.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it. Then Bobby Kennedy told him, man, you got to get these guys out. He wouldn't do it. And then right before the March on Washington, the big seven, big six, whatever, came to the White House, and Bobby kind of gave John Kennedy a nod, and John Kennedy told King, come out to the Rose Garden, I want to talk to you. He didn't even want it to be bugged in the Oval Office because he was going to share top secret information with him. And he said, I know you're under surveillance. That's lawyer talk for saying you're under surveillance.
Yeah.
You have 3-4 guys in your organization are communists. They got to go. And he called their names, said Bear Rustin, Jack O'Dell, Stanley Levinson. He said, these guys are communists and they have to go. And the King tried to deny it. He said, look, do you think I pulled these guys' names out of a hat? I'm the president of the United States of America and I know their name. And he brought up this guy in Great Britain that they called him some type of sex scandal. Forget his name, but he said, you know about this? He said, yes. He said, well, he lost his government behind that. He said, I could do the same thing. If you go down, I go down. You got to get rid of these guys because I'm affiliated with you. They had invested a lot in him. So King said he would do it. Well, J. Edgar Hoover, of course, didn't believe it. And he heard about this group of communists that were going to be meeting down in Dorchester, Georgia. And he set up some cameras to see who was going to show up. And lo and behold, Martin Luther King Jr. showed up in this nest of spies after this long conversation with the president. And he brought these pictures back to Bobby Kennedy and said, I thought he said he's going to get rid of these guys. He's going to cut them loose. And that's when Bobby Kennedy signed to put the wiretaps on him. He said and it was more to protect him because they thought he was going to be able to be blackmailed and that he was going to be infiltrated and da-da-da-da-da. And so they watched him, and as you notice, none of this stuff really got out until, and it's funny how it got out. The night of the Joe Frazier-Muhammad Ali fight in 1971, everybody's watching this fight, right? So this group of weirdo communists decided that they were going to burglarize an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania. They burglarized the FBI office, and guess what they found? The COINTELPRO papers.
Yes.
Bought them out and gave them to the Washington Post, to the New York Times. And that's where all the stuff about King came out. It wasn't J. Edgar Hoover, it wasn't the FBI, it wasn't the conservatives. It was the liberals that put it out there. And when people started reading it, they said, oh my God. Hoover had kept King's stuff secret. All of it. Nobody knew it.
The sex stuff.
Yeah, the sex stuff. And then when it got out, the people, King's people wanted to have it all destroyed. And that's when the judge said, no, we're going to take it and we're going to seal it for 50 years. And nobody can see it. But yeah, these liberal morons were the ones that broke into the FBI office and stole it and gave it to the press. And that's how we knew about King's affairs and his 45 girlfriends and his prostitutes and the orgies, which the thing that bothers me more about all of it, Tucker, is the prostitutes. The orgies are bad. Yeah, we ain't got to talk about that. But when you buy flesh, and you say you're a man of God, I mean, that's very visceral with me.
Yeah.
That's visceral, you know? Just so much terrible stuff. But the fact that, they say he plagiarized his PhD, which means that he was a fake doctor. And then, they say that he wasn't a Christian. It means he was a fake Christian. And he walks around with these communists. And it had gotten so bad that Dietrich Loach finally told J. Edgar Hoover, he said, you can't talk to him. And that's when J. Edgar Hoover then decided to make him an enemy of the state. And this is when it gets interesting with his assassination. When I read this in Taylor Branch's book, Parting the Waters, American King Years, and Taylor Branch is a Democrat.
Yeah.
He's Bill Clinton's roommate at Yale.
Yep.
So it's not a conservative saying this. It's a Democrat, Bill Clinton friend that said this about King. He said that the FBI designated King an enemy of the state. And it's only about 5 or 6 people that have ever been had such designation in the United States of America history. And they said that with this designation, even if they heard that somebody was coming to assassinate him, they wouldn't warn him. And that was a courtesy they would give to mafia dons. They would not give it to King. So they said he's an enemy of the United States of America. This is interesting that he was so affiliated with these people. They found out that money from Moscow was bankrolled in the civil rights movement. He was getting money from Moscow to put in his pocket. All of this. That he was deemed the enemy of the United States of America by the federal government. And so I'm reading this. And, I'm reading this stuff about, right now, FBI and the government hated Martin Luther King Jr., hated the civil rights movement, But I read this story about this group called the Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM. Maxwell Stanford was running it. Tupac Shakur's people were involved in all of this. And these guys are rough. They had decided that they were going to assassinate Whitney Young for the Urban League and Roy Wilkins for the NAACP. They were going to take out the black leadership because they thought they were Uncle Toms. And Hoover had infiltrated RAM and knew what they were doing. If J. Edgar Hoover had hated the civil rights movement, he would have allowed RAM to go ahead and do what they were going to do, and then would have arrested them and said, look at this, black people killing black people. Ain't this a shame? Instead, what does he do? He warns the people in the civil rights movement, protects them, then he arrests the guys at RAM and destroys the whole organization. They go into exile, some go to Cuba, they all run off, others he put in jail. Does that sound like a man that hates the civil rights movement? No. Juan Williams did a book on Thurgood Marshall. As you know, Thurgood Marshall was a federal judge.
Yeah, of course.
For a long time. Then became Supreme Court Justice, Solicitor General. Thurgood Marshall said J. Edgar Hoover never lied to him. He had to sign the warrants as a federal judge. He said Hoover didn't have to lie. He said Hoover always had the goods. Never lied to him. So why this assassination on the character of J. Edgar Hoover? Because he took out communists. He took out Marxists. He took out these malcontents that hate America. The same group in 1968 to try to take over the Democratic Party in Chicago, right?
Right.
And Mayor Daley and the hard hats ran them out. And they were out there screaming, the whole world is watching, the whole world is watching. What does Saul Alinsky tell them? You got 3 choices. Either find a wailing wall and cry, start making bombs and exploding everything, then they're going to turn to the GOP, or go organize. And in 4 months, 4 years, come back, and you be the delegates. They came back to Miami in 1972. They were so well versed in the rules of the Democratic Party that when Daley showed up with his Illinois Chicago tangent, they ran him out. And Jesse Jackson and this guy by the name of Singer took their place. They took over the Democratic Party in 1972, and they brought in LGBTQ and abortion and that stuff for the first time. And that's when Richard Nixon slaughtered them, remember? Nixon didn't need Watergate. The Democrats imploded in 1972. And they did it from the civil rights movement. All of those people from the civil rights movement, that was their plan, to come in and take the Democratic Party. They tried it in 68. Daley beat them down. They then used the rules. 72, they got it. They haven't let it go since. And they finally got what they wanted in 2008 with Barack Obama.
Who was Obama in retrospect?
God, I think Obama was a part of a worldwide liberal movement. From Western Europe to here. All of them, all of this cabal of weirdos over there in Europe that were pushing things at that time, from Merkel to the guy over France. Obama was involved in all of it. And all this LGBTQ stuff and all this climate change crap started happening then. And it's all designed for a one world government to try to get, I don't know, the World Health Organization or the UN or somebody to start getting some type of criminal court that can start arresting us for not doing what they want us to do.
So I mean, it's funny, distance between what you thought something was and then what you later learn out it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
And on the LGBTQ plus, or whatever we're calling it now, I mean, I was raised in a pretty liberal area where we were told that was about, a certain percent of the population, I think it was 10% they said was gay by birth. And, leave them alone. Don't bother them.
Right.
Like, don't be mean to them.
Exactly.
And that always made sense to me. I don't have zero interest in bothering people in general, particularly over their sex lives. But now I'm starting to think in my age that that actually wasn't kind of what it was about.
No. They understand what they're doing. You know what communism is. Number one is atheism. Why? Because they do not compete for power.
Number one, it's atheism. I agree with
Number one, they don't compete for power. In America, we say there's a higher law than the Constitution. It's God. There's certain rights that we have that you cannot touch, government. That's our whole concept of government. Unalienable rights. We have a Bill of Rights that say you can't touch these, government. The communists say, no such ideology exists. The government controls all. So God has to be destroyed. We know that much of LGBTQ is in direct conflict with our Bible. Direct conflict. Absolutely. So it's like the Daniel test. They had Daniel, you know the story. Daniel was the king's favorite, and the guys in Babylon started getting jealous of Daniel, and they said, we're going to set him up. So they said, hey, king, why don't you make a decree that says that no one can pray to you for 30 days. The king said, yeah, it makes good sense. But they knew that Daniel prayed 4 or 5 times a day to his God. And so they say, if the king makes this decree, if Daniel obeys the decree, his God leaves him. If he disobeys the king will kill him. Either way, Daniel's in the trick bag. So, of course, the king makes the decree. They're spying on Daniel, sees him praying to his God. You know the rest of the story. They put him into the lion's den. God saves him. King kills those guys. It's the same thing in America now. We're going to pass laws to you Christians. You're going to bow to us. If you do what your God says, we're going to punish you. But if you do what we say, your God is going to leave you. Either way, we're in the trick bag. Either way, they have us.
This is not what we were promised. We were promised a society where everyone kind of does his own thing and everyone gets along.
Exactly.
You treat other people with respect.
Exactly.
Some measure of dignity. You don't have to agree with them. They don't have to follow your religion, but you also don't have to follow their religion.
You don't. But
then, now I feel like we're being told we have to follow their religion.
There it is. It's always about who has the gun. See, the civil rights movement should have been, if Martin Luther King Jr. had been a real preacher, he would have known that you don't change people's opinions with the gun. You change their hearts. You're a Godfather aficionado, right?
Yeah.
That's your Godfather. Okay. You know when first Godfather comes on, that's Michael Corleone sitting down talking with his girlfriend, Kay. And she sees Luca Brasi talking to himself. And she says, Michael, who's that scary man? And Michael said, that's a very scary man. That's Luca Brasi. Tell you a story about Luca. He says, my father has a godson by the name of Johnny Fontaine. Johnny Fontaine's famous now. He said that Johnny was under contract with his band leader. And Johnny wanted to do this movie. The band leader wouldn't let him out. He asked my father if he could handle it. My father said yes. Father goes to the band leader, offers him $10,000 to let Johnny go. Band leader says no. My father says, I'll be back. And this time he brings back Luca Brasi. And he gets Johnny out of the contract with a certified check of $1,000. Kay says, Michael, how did he do that? He said, well, Luca Brasi put a gun to the band leader's head and promised him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. Michael, that's a true story. Okay, question, was Vito Corleone a violent man for using Luca Brasi? Of course he was. Martin Luther King Jr. wants to eat a hamburger down south. Racist white man says no. Martin says, I'll be back. This time he brings the federal government. Federal government put a gun to the guy's head. And says, either Martin Luther King or your brains are going to be on their lunch counter, eating that hamburger. God lets him eat. Was Martin Luther King Jr. a violent man? Of course he was. He used violence from a third party.
Yes.
Civil rights movement wasn't a nonviolent movement. A nonviolent movement would have been changing your neighbor's heart by your actions. What does that mean? If he's mean to me, I'm good to him. If you won't let me eat a hamburger at your stand, I'll build another restaurant that's better than yours. You can eat at mine for free. If you won't let me go to your school, I'll build a better school than yours and you can send your child to mine for free. You treat me bad, I treat you right, but you're going to treat me like a man. You're going to treat me with respect. I demand that. And this is how you get your respect. Instead, what did they do? They used the gun. In the book of Corinthians, it says 11 people will not enter the kingdom of heaven. The last one is the extortionist. What's the extortionist? An extortionist is the one that uses violence, threats, coercion to get what they want. And that's what the civil rights movement did. It didn't change the hearts of Americans. It extorted them. It told them either give us what we want or we're going to blow your brains out. We're going to put you in jail. That is not the Christian way. And it failed because they used the tool of the devil to get what they wanted. And it continues to fail. We're at the bottom of every socioeconomic statistic in America because we will not do what we've always supposed to have done, and that was live in this meritocracy. How did we break into the NFL? We showed we were better. How did we break into the NBA? Showed we were better. We went out there and we competed. Mano a mano. I'm going to beat you straight up. Tucker, if you make a glass that's better than this one that will last for 1,000 years, people are not going to care what your color is. They're going to buy it.
What's the tool of the devil that he used?
Extortion.
Yep.
Extortion, coercion. You're going to give me what I'm going to pass a law that says if you don't give me what I want, the federal government is going to put you in jail or kill you. Now, give me what I want. That is not the Christian way. We're not even supposed to sue each other.
That's right. Bible. On the way to court.
That's right. We're supposed to sit down and
settle your differences.
Yeah.
That's exactly
we're supposed to reason with one another. Well, that's why I'm going to take you to court. No, I'll let it go before I take you to court.
I feel the same way.
I'll let it go. I'll measure you before we do it. And once I trust you, if you break that trust, that's my tax. I trusted him. Shouldn't have. That's on me. Fool me once, what? Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You take it. No, they didn't want to do the hard work. And that's why I tell the LGBTQ community also. Do the hard work. Don't go to the law. Change the minds of your neighbor. All of these things that they are saying about you that you say are not true, prove that it's not true. Don't go and have somebody put a gun to your neighbor and say, that's a Tim Cook. It's openly gay. I buy his product. Why? Because it's the best product out there. iPhone, I buy it. Prove your loyalty. Prove that if you want to be this man's friend, be his friend. Show yourself friendly. But you can't go out there using the law to get it done. We have made this mistake over and over again. Right now, they're marching down in Florida. They want DeSantis to put some type of black history back into public education when DeSantis has passed a school choice bill. If you don't like how the public educational system is educating your children, take it to a private school. No. We're going to make you do it. Coercion. This is all they know. And they put the black preacher up ahead of it all the time. And if any black person, like when Byron Donald just said that the black family was more intact during Jim Crow. Oh, they came up. Byron Donald said black people were doing better during Jim Crow. He didn't say that. He said despite of Jim Crow couldn't destroy us. But the Iron Triangle, the black preacher, the black politician, the black civil rights worker, they will. They have. Slavery didn't kill us. Jim Crow didn't kill us. But the Democratic Party, they're taking us out. They are destroying the black community right now.